Ladies and gents, Tony Roseland in the studio with a product review today. Our friends over at LaCie sent us one of their latest drives to review, and we put it through its paces. Stick around to find out what it thought. All right, as I said, our friends over at LaCie sent us one of their latest drives, the too big Thunderbolt 3 drive and dock. Oh, it's a mouthful, but this thing is packed full of bells and whistles. It's got all kinds of ports on it, which is what made it interesting to me and was why I wanted to review the thing when they initially reached out. I've been using RAID drives for a while now in the studio for both photo and video backup. I have an old video on my YouTube channel about bulletproof backup strategies for photographers. In fact, I need to update that because quite a few things have changed, but the concepts of RAID haven't. They're basically the same. Now, LaCie claims a 440 write speed out of the box using Thunderbolt 3, and that's actually pretty accurate. We got 442 and 435 read-write speeds using Blackmagic in RAID 0. Once we switched to RAID 1, of course, we cut that in half roughly. Our times were 228 and 220 respectively read-write. Now, these units have three ways that you can set them up as far as RAID configuration goes. The first is out of the box, it's RAID 0. RAID 0 means that you're spanning the entire sum of disks. So in our case, we have two 8 terabyte drives inside, making this a 16 terabyte system. In RAID 1, our computer sees this drive as a 16 terabyte system. This is great. It's also the fastest way to use this drive. That gives us those 440 read-write speeds that we talked about earlier. So what happens in RAID 1 is that drive A is mirrored to drive B, and you get backup in case one of those drives fails. You don't lose all of your data. Like I said, the trade-off is that you cut your speeds in half. The third option is JBOD, also known as just a bunch of disks, and that lets the computer see it as two separate drives completely, and it's just, there's no redundancy. You don't get the speed advantage of RAID 0, it's just a couple of disks attached to your computer. If I'm looking to buy an enclosure like this, I would actually look at buying two. The reason being is I can run them both in RAID 0 configuration, maintaining the fast read-write speed, and then use a utility like Carbon Copy Cloner or ChronoSync to copy one enclosure to the other. And that gives me the redundancy that you normally get from RAID 1 while still maintaining the drive space of RAID 0. Of course, it costs you twice as much, but if you have a data loss and you're able to instantly recover it, especially when you're trying to actively work on a project, that can be pretty invaluable. Ask me how I know.
I know from experience, dude. You know what I mean?
No, you don't.
Now this drive that we have is a 16 terabyte unit, but it comes in 8, 12, 16, 20, and 28 terabyte versions. The one we have is the 16 terabyte version with two 8 terabyte Seagate IronWolf Pro 7200 RPM drives. Now, we tried to find some reliable data about these drives and what their reliability was and failure rate, etc. I even went as far as to look at things like Backblaze, Cloud Backup Services, which publishes a quarterly report talking about all the drives that they have in service and what their reliability or failure rate data is, but it wasn't listed on there. What we could find is Newegg had this drive listed, but they also had a newer model listed. So when we clicked the newer model and compare the two, we really didn't see any difference between them. Not sure why there's a newer model, if it's just some sort of component that changed or if there was a problem with the older units like the ones we have in ours. No idea, don't know, not gonna assume anything, it's just worth noting. What's unique about this drive is it actually works as sort of a hub for you. On the front, we have a USB Type A, which is USB 3.0, great for charging phones and things like that, shoving flash drives into, whatever. It also has a compact flash drive and an SD card slot, which is great. You don't have to have an additional card reader attached to your computer. So all of that runs through the front of this device. You don't have to reach around the back in the dark trying to figure out where the slots are, etc. It can connect to your computer via one of the ports on the back. Now that's where it gets interesting. You have a DisplayPort, so if you want to run an external monitor, this thing will support a 5K display or two 4K displays. Now it also has three USB-C ports, two of which are Thunderbolt 3 ports. You can daisy chain up to 5 Thunderbolt 3 devices, and all of those ports put out charging power. The USB-C 3.1 port puts out 27 watts of power, and the two Thunderbolt 3 ports put out 15 watts of power. It also has a Kensington lock port on the back, which I've never used. Has anybody ever used that? I don't know anybody who's ever connected a lock to their drives, but maybe if you're in a business environment or something and you're worried about some coworker walking off with your stuff. People still seem to put it on laptops and drives, so it's there if you need it. LaCie does include a Thunderbolt 3 cable in the box, but it's pretty short and I'm not sure that it's very useful. I would like to see at least a 3-foot cord in the box, but at least they gave you one. So it also includes a power cable with travel adapters for the plug-ins. So if you're traveling with this thing out of country, or if you're in another country and you're using this unit, you can use it in all types of European countries and plug types, etc. Now this unit is using enterprise class drives, so hopefully those duty cycles can handle, everything you can throw it at, and you'll never have to worry about failure with these. But if you have RAID 1 or a second drive for redundancy, then you are protected. In the unlikely event that you have some data gets corrupted or lost, the unit does have a 5-year warranty and comes with 5 years of rescue data recovery services, so you can reach out to LaCie if you need help. And we actually tried to reach out to LaCie and see how long it would take us to talk to an actual human being. Now the way their system works is you go online, you bang in the serial number for the product you need help with, and then it puts you in a queue with a phone number. You can reach out to LaCie and you can get help for that particular product. Unfortunately, because they sent us a review unit, it doesn't have a warranty associated with it, and we put in the serial number, it said not found in the system. So we weren't able to test that and figure out how long to actually talk to a person. But there is a system in place. Now, if you're outside of the warranty period, good news is you can still get help from LaCie. They have a $14.95 fee that you can pay and talk to one of their data recovery specialists or technical support specialists, and hopefully you can get the service that you need for your device. Now, removing the drives from this unit is actually pretty easy. You just grab onto the flap on front and yank it out. It is hot swappable, so if a drive goes down, you can pull it out, shove a new one in, and if you're in RAID 1, it should rewrite data from the working drive to the new drive. If you're in RAID 0, well, then that's when you're going to want to call LaCie and try to get some of that data recovery service and see if you can get some of the data recovered off of the failed drive. All right, now we get to the cons of the device. This little short cable is one of them. The other thing is the aesthetics. Now, LaCie really hasn't updated their drives for at least a decade. I mean, I had a 2-big and a 5-big about a decade ago, and they essentially looked the same without all the fancy ports on the front. And of course, there were different connections on the back. But as long as I can remember, they've been square silver boxes. I'd love to see, some rounded edges or some updated design aesthetics to the thing, since it is on your desk in plain view all day long. The other thing that's interesting about this is, of course, they put the most common ports on the front, the SD card and the CF card, but with today's CFast cards and the Sony XD cards and all of these things, I'm surprised they didn't make it like a 5 or 7 port hub on the front of this unit. So I'm curious to see if future versions will include additional card type slots. All right, final thoughts. Would I buy this drive? Yes, absolutely. The same stuff that appeals to me when they reached out to offer for me to review this drive is what appeals to me now, and that's those extra ports on the front. Now, if you're in the market for a 2-bay drive like this, you're probably going to be looking at competitors like G-Tech. For $849, the same price as this 16 terabyte unit, G-Tech also has a 16 terabyte unit, and it's very similar. On the back especially, it has 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports, a Type-C 3.1 port, and they changed the DisplayPort for an HDMI port, but essentially it's all the same connectivity. It's the front that LaCie gets the edge with that additional USB port, the SD card slot, and the CF card slot. However, if you don't need the Thunderbolt 3 ports and you just are okay with 3.1, you can save $150 and buy the regular 2-big drive that doesn't have the ports along the front, and it's quite a bit cheaper. So that is really up to you and how you plan on using the system. For me, I like Thunderbolt 3. I like to be able to run the 2 monitors and all of that other good stuff out of there and daisy chain all the Thunderbolt devices. So it's a no-brainer for me. The 2 at the same price, I'm going to take the one with all the extra ports on the front. So all right, that's about it for this topic in this review. I mean, LaCie is known for making reliable drives. For $849 with all those ports, you're gonna have more connectivity than you probably ever need. If you like this video, give it a little thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. If you didn't like it, double tap that dislike button. If you haven't listened to the podcast yet, do that. Pixel Punishers, it's a bi-weekly podcast. We talk about all things photography and beyond. And definitely check us out on Instagram at Tony Roseland. If you got questions, leave them in the comments. I'm out. Peace. No, I'm all right. Why? All right, as I said, our friends over at LaCie sent us that thing? Yeah. What the was that noise? man. God damn it. It didn't come up on screen though, right? No. Okay, let's do it again. And that sort of thing. As I said, our friends over at LaCie sent us their latest drive. What the f***? Are you kidding me?